We are honored to actually have Mr. Arvind Mediratha with us today. He is the Managing Director and CEO of Metro Cash and Carry India Private Limited. He's a veteran in the retail sector. He also is the chair of the FICCI Retail and Internal Trade Committee. So very warm welcome to you, Mr. Mediratha. If I may, begin, retail has been really impacted by COVID, right? And there are different segments of retail. So there is, retail in the essential commodities. There's retail in larger formats, and there are different. So, if you could just share with our viewers what has been the impact of COVID, on the different segments of the retail sector in India, and how does it compare globally?
So let me start by sharing with you what our experience has been in the last 4 months. And I'll not just speak only on behalf of our organization, but on behalf of the retail sector. So I will first split the retail sector into two, basis the classification done by the government. There is essential retail, or a retail which was catering to the essential products. And the other sector was non-essential. So if I look at fundamentally essential is what? Is food and grocery. So our experience has been that if you look at food and grocery business, it has been relatively stable. There was a big impact in the month of April when the lockdown was first imposed. I think most of the people saw their sales shrinking by 25-30%. But if I look at what has happened in June and July, sales have come back, at least in food and grocery, for many people to the pre-COVID levels. I will also like to share with you some data from AC Nielsen. The data says that for the month of May, in urban areas, the sales were about, for FMCG sector, the sales were roughly about, in urban areas, I'm talking about 70% of pre-COVID levels. But in the month of June, it has climbed back to about 100%. In July, things were going relatively fine. But then there have been state-specific lockdowns which have, taken the winds out of the sails. So if you see in Karnataka or Bangalore, which is a big market for us, we have been under a very stringent lockdown. And the lockdown is even more severe than what happened in the month of March, April, and May. And let me illustrate how. So first of all, when lockdown was imposed in March and April, the stores were allowed to remain open till 7 p.m. Right now, all the stores are being asked to shut down by 12 noon. So the window of shopping available to the customer will come at 6 a.m. to your stores. You also need to give time to the employees to report to work. So they'll come in by 7 a.m. and by 12 noon, you have to shut down the store. So it has taken a severe toll on sales for most of the retailers, even as we speak. So on food and grocery, you can say June was pretty much back to the pre-COVID levels, but July, we'll have to wait and watch because this lockdown situation in Karnataka is one example. In Uttar Pradesh, they imposed a lockdown on Saturday and Sundays. So which means everything was closed on Saturday and Sunday. And, UP is the biggest state in terms of population. So it will have a toll, it will take a toll on the overall sales numbers. But the impact for the non-essential sector has been a lot more severe. So if I look at what is considered to be non-essential, like apparel, shoes, footwear, you look at electronics. For the month of April and May, virtually it was zero revenue because sale of non-essential was not allowed. It was allowed in a calibrated fashion in the month of June. And, July again, many of these people have stores in malls. Malls are not operational across all the states. In fact, when we did the last FICCI retail committee meeting, the information that we got is that many of the apparel retailers are operating at 20 to 25% of the sales they were doing before COVID or before the lockdown. So non-food sector has been badly impacted. Electronics, what we understand, is doing relatively better because there is a demand. There was a pent-up demand for larger TVs. A lot of people bought air conditioners because, April, May normally are months when, people buy these things. So it was getting into the season. So their sales are probably 50% of what they were doing before COVID or 50% of what they did last year. But apparel, shoes, you look at other durables is 30 to 40. So it's anywhere between 20 to 50%. And April and May were virtual washouts. And if you look at the relief which has come from the corporate sector, it's not much. There was some relief given on the Provident Fund contribution to the employees, which is 2% instead of 12%. You deduct 10%, so it's 2% less. But fundamentally, now if I compare with we are a German company and we have data as to what's going on in the European markets. As we speak, if I look at Europe, if I look at our company, the sales were more or less at the pre-COVID levels in the months of June. And some countries like Russia or some countries like Turkey, in fact, have been growing at, or even Netherlands and Belgium, which are more advanced countries, which are not so impacted by the pandemic, they were growing at 15-20% versus last year. So in retail, if you look at, or wholesale, look at Europe, some of the markets like Russia, Belgium, Netherlands, Turkey have done very well, Romania. But there are countries which we all know were very severely impacted, like France, Spain, Italy, Portugal. Again, the data is that they were almost at 90% of what they were doing pre-COVID. And in the month of July, they're almost tracking at last year levels. And another interesting insight that we have is that in Europe, the hospitality sector has bounced back to normalcy. While in India, the hospitality sector, because we do a lot of business with the hotel, restaurants, caterers, etc., is probably at 15-20% of the pre-COVID levels. And we believe the recovery in the case of hospitality sector will be a long drawn one. It will be at least 12 to 18 months before that sector gets back to normal. So if you consider food retail as part of this, the restaurant industry as part of this, it will be a long drawn process of recovery. So I hope that gives you some perspective on what's the situation in India. If I have to summarize, food and grocery almost same level as pre-COVID, but non-food or general merchandise is 20-25%. And compared to Europe, the recovery has been quite slow.
That's a very interesting perspective that you gave vis-a-vis Europe. Do you see some, you briefly mentioned UP and Karnataka. Is there any differentiation between urban and rural India or different states? Are some states doing better, or is rural India doing better? Or, what is that, I'm sure you have a bird's eye view of the country here like you have of Europe. So how's the country doing?
It's again a very good question, Dilip. I'll say rural sector is doing much better than the urban sector. So when I talk to you about the index of 70 for the month of May, right, for FMCG sector versus pre-COVID, for rural it was 90, 92. So urban is 70, rural is 92. In the case of June, urban is probably 100 and rural is 105, 106. So a lot of money which the government has given out has gone into the rural areas, and there is a big demand for at least basic food and grocery products in rural. So companies which have a more rural skew are doing fine. So I think you will find that people who have a pan-India footprint, who are delivering, maybe the e-commerce companies which are covering almost all the zip codes, which also have some semi-urban, rural salience, are doing relatively better. But companies which are mostly focused on the big urban metros are not doing so well. And the number of cases and infection has been the most severe in bigger cities like Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Calcutta, which is where also the lockdown has been more severe. So these cities have been relatively much more affected, even within urban, compared to smaller towns like Lucknow. You take Punjab cities, or you look at Vijaywadas of the world where we have presence. The smaller towns have not been as impacted. Even when I talk to some of the food aggregators and delivery companies, they are reporting much more robust sales in the tier 2 and tier 3 and tier 4 cities in urban compared to tier 1 and big metropolitan cities. And when we talk to our suppliers who are all from the FMCG sector, they're reporting a much more robust demand in urban, in rural compared to urban. So it's like metropolitan cities have been the most impacted, followed by the tier 2 and tier 3, tier 4, and rural is relatively unscathed, which is in a way good.
So you mentioned, earlier about, the reduction in store timings and the difficulty in getting people. So what are the current practical challenges being faced by the sector, and how are companies actually addressing them? And if you could, is there a partnership developing at state governments and industry, or national governments and industry in, collectively addressing these issues?
So here I will say that we got a lot of support from FICCI in terms of resolving these issues. So initially in the months of March, April, there were a lot of regular meetings being set up with the ministries at the center, with the chief secretaries of states and with secretary of food
consumer affairs,
food processing, etc. Right. So we got a lot of support initially, but somewhere the momentum got diluted in the months of June, July, because when the Unlock 1.0 was announced, we thought everything will come back to normal. So most of us were taken totally off guard by the sudden decision to impose lockdown in places like Bangalore. And yesterday there was an announcement by the West Bengal government that they will have 2 days of lockdown in Bengal. And again, sometimes the logic that they use is difficult for us to comprehend in the industry, because they are saying it will probably be Tuesday and Thursday to start with in this week, and next week the days will also change. So some of these things defy all kind of logic. Similarly, UP to close down everything on Saturday, Sunday. I don't know what's the logic behind it, because it's not a virus is not a working person who takes a vacation or a break on the weekends. So some of these policy decisions are difficult to honestly comprehend, and has taken the entire sector by surprise.
No, so I mean that actually gives us a fresh agenda that we got to really be proactive with the states where the lockdown comes and engage with a discussion with them. So typically, what would you like these state governments to do? When they're during the lockdown, and what if I take the lessons from March, April with the central government, what should state governments do?
See, Dilip, one of the big things that where we need support from the government, I'm not talking only on behalf of our organization, but the entire retail sector. We have to convince people that it's safe to shop in a physical environment, right? So it's okay to come to a mall and shop. It's okay to come to a physical store and shop. And as industry, we are willing to put together. We already have implemented across all the big chains, 25, 30 safety measures to reassure our customers and employees that if they come to these stores to shop, they will not catch the infection. We have put, plexiglass shields in our stores. We have people wearing masks. We maintain social distancing. So I think all the big companies, retailers are doing that. We have even passed on some of these best practices to kiranas, who are also our customers, saying you need to sanitize the surfaces which are being touched by your customers frequently on a very regular basis. You need to wear masks. You need to encourage your customers and employees to wear masks. You need to maintain social distancing. So we have done I think a pretty rigorous job of telling people about how to minimize the spread of the infection. And we are happy to report that in the last 4 months, the number of coronavirus cases in our stores have been virtually negligible. And if there could be a national campaign, I saw something which was shared to me by the retail committee or retail fellow panelists or players, something with Thailand has done. They have done a campaign saying, please come to Thailand. It's a safe place to come to, whether it's a tourist or whether it's local citizens going to malls. So they've done a campaign. If the Indian government could also start a campaign, and we'll be willing to pitch in with the money, all the retailers can pool in some money to reassure customers it's safe to shop in physical stores, whether it's in malls or standalone stores like ours or high street. The government should support that. The second thing is there has to be some consistency in the policy. In fact, if you want to maintain social distancing, you need to allow stores to remain open longer. You cannot, concentrate all the shopping in 4 or 5 hours, because that's a formula for disaster. If people are going to, or people figure out that you can only shop for 4 hours, the crowd will only increase. It becomes more difficult and challenging to maintain social distancing when the window for shopping is confined to only 4 or 5 hours. So our request to the government is that please allow stores to open from say 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. in the morning till at least 9 p.m. Right? So that you can spread the shopping hours and you can maintain social distancing. In fact, these kind of lockdowns with constrained shopping hours have a reverse effect. They scare away people from shopping physically at these stores. And the reality is that retail is actually, I think, the second or third largest generator of employment in the country. After agriculture and after people with their own business, it's the third largest sector in terms of providing employment. And I also would like to point out your attention to one more important point, that so far, if you look at all the big retail companies, many of them are multinational or supported by big industrial houses in India. But there are a lot of millions. Our estimate is about 3.5 crore shopkeepers in this country, right, who are unorganized. And if markets remain closed and people have a concern going and physically shopping in these markets, you're going to create a major problem in terms of, it's a socio-economic problem, Because I know a lot of retailers who are saying that their sales are down to 10-15% of what they were doing. Small apparel shops, shoe stores, stores selling household articles. So if people shift online and are afraid of shopping physically, and then there is always a variation in when these markets will remain open. Some states have tried this experiment that one side of the shopping street will be open on odd days, the second side on even days. These are very ill-conceived decisions. So we need the government to also think about 3.5 crore small shopkeepers in this country. Because if they go bust, and many of them are dipping into their savings right now to survive. So of course, the situation, the pandemic has to be brought under control, and hopefully there's some good news on the vaccine front. But more than that, government has to provide reassurance to the citizens that it's okay to go and shop, but they must also work together with the industry to make sure people are following these safety guidelines and protocol. And we are willing to pitch in with funds to do this. Because, if you look at Kirana stores, while overall Kirana business is fine and some stores have run very well, we also know from the survey that we have done, about 15-20% of these Kirana shop owners in the bigger cities have gone back to their native towns or villages, and they're unlikely to come back. Because, imagine when markets are closed down completely on Saturdays, Sundays. It happened in Punjab. It is happening right now in UP. These guys cannot survive. They don't have the clout to get an e-pass for themselves or their employees. What will they do? And if they venture out, they are beaten up. So many of them have closed their shops and gone back. This is, I know for a fact, this data is true for Kiranas. And Kiranas are actually the most resilient of the lot, where everybody has to consume food and grocery. Imagine the plight of guys selling shoes, apparel, electronics, and other stuff.
So, in the Kirana sector, just as an understanding, there are a lot of people and a lot of stores that are unbanked.
Yes.
I know that, your organization also supports different entities as in that. So what could the government do, like, for example, in the street vendors, they bought this 10,000 rupee loan or something. What is it that the government could do for the unbanked small Kirana stores and the type of, stores that you talked about, where people have gone back, to actually get this whole sector kicking again? Because it's a large employer, it's a multiplier, and a lot of livelihoods depend on it.
So we had approached the government to offer loans to these guys to expand their business. So we have a program called the Smart Kirana program. We focus primarily on the Kirana stores, where the whole idea was to upgrade these stores from a closed format store into an open format store, like a supermarket, right? Where customers can come inside and browse through the various aisles and different product categories. But this requires an investment of 1.5 to 2 lakhs, depending upon the size of the store. Many of them don't have that kind of money available, certainly not at this point of time. So if the government could extend them loans with concessional rates under the Mudra scheme. We talked about this with several ministers, including with the Honorable Commerce Minister, Mr. Piyush Goyal, and Mr. Sadanand Gowda, who's our MP for the North Bangalore, which is where our head office is, and also our flagship head office store is. They all supported this. We had a meeting with the SBI chairman and his team. But the reality is the banks have not been very, forthcoming in offering them loans because they don't have a credit history. And I will also tell you, Dilip, that we have talked to some startup companies to extend loans to these people. These are for a period of 30 days, 45 days. We find that the delinquency rates amongst these small shopkeepers are the lowest. It's typically the big corporates who go kaput and who run away and who abscond. The smaller guys will always repay the loan, because for them, that shop is the only source of livelihood. If they shut shop and they go away, they have no means of any livelihood. And for them, face in the community is very important. So we would request the government that, there have been measures announced by the finance minister to offer credit to these people without collateral. But the reality on the ground is that this is not happening. They're still struggling for liquidity. So that's one thing the government can do. Second is if there can be some incentive for digitalization of these stores. Because many of them are open to embracing technology right now versus, 6 months ago or 12 months ago. And they are even ordering from us online if they cannot physically come to the store because of the lockdown and they are falling into a containment zone. They have adopted the e-commerce platform that we introduced about 4 months ago. and that's generating right now humongous amount of sales for us. We are doing more than 1 crore of business per day from e-commerce platform. And they're ordering on their own. This is despite the fact that we had no ways of physically reaching out to them to download the app and tell them how to navigate the app. It was all done on the phone. So they are much more open to adopting technology, going digital. And we are even talking to some companies to help them create a network of these Kirana stores. It's like you create a marketplace, and these Kirana stores become like sellers on that marketplace. And if I'm say a family in the neighborhood, I have vicinity to their assortment and their prices on a real-time basis, and I can place an order online with whichever Kirana store I prefer to shop at. So that's what we are ultimately trying to do, and create offers for their customers so that they can continue to thrive despite so much of money being burnt by the e-commerce companies. So we are working on accelerating this program, which we call the Smart Kirana program.
So thank you for that. I think very important insights. Non-food retail not doing as well as food retail. Food retail came up to about 70% or 100% of the earlier part. Non-food retail at about 25%. Rural initially doing up to 92% versus urban 72%. A lot of support from the government in the early days of the lockdown needs to be replicated by the state governments now when we are reinforcing lockdowns, because the playbook is already there. Need to look at expanded retail hours rather than constraining them. And also this huge digitization of the retail sector and the partnership and the need to focus on the local kiranas getting access to credit, and also developing a new digitization framework that will actually help everybody in this sector, because the sector has a huge multiplier impact, huge employment, and is critical for the growth of the economy going forward. So thank you, Mr. Arvind Mediratha, for those critical insights, and keep well and keep safe. All the very best. Thank you.
Stay healthy and stay safe. Thank you so much.